Okay, in this lesson, we're going to look at calculating the gradient of a line. So over here, we have a question that says, calculate the gradient of the line joining the following points. I have line A, which joins the point 2, 3, 2, 4, 5. Part B goes from negative 2, 1 to 0, 4. And then part C asks gets the point going from negative 6, negative 1 to point negative 2, negative 5. Now there are two ways that we can go about solving this. I'm going to show you both ways for all 3 points, and you can decide which way works best for you. So the first way that I'm going to look at is to actually draw the line, so we can visualize it and we can calculate the gradient going from there. Now, the gradient, just to refresh your memory, gradient just means the slope of a curve, so how steep a slope looks, whether it's going in a positive direction, so if it's increasing, or if it's going in a negative direction, so that it's going, that the numbers are decreasing. Okay, and the gradient can be positive, negative, and it's usually just a number. We also have the gradient written as an m. So the symbol for gradient is just lowercase m. Okay, so I'm going to do part A first, and I'm going to do that in blue. I'm going to draw it up. Now, in our first way that we're going to answer it, we need to have our axes labeled. So I've already gone ahead and drawn this up for you. That takes some time, so you might not find this way of solving this problem the easiest, because it takes a bit of time, and in an exam you want to maximize your time. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is plot these points. So both points need to be plotted on this graph. So 2, 3, we go across 2 and up 3. This is our first point. Then it goes to our second point, which is 4, 5. We'll go across 4 and then up 5. So we've got our 2 points, and then we can draw our line here. Give me a 45-degree angle. Okay, and we just draw our line. Okay, let's get rid of that. So this is our line. Using this, we can actually calculate our gradient, which is our slope, by looking at the components going up and across. So joining these up and then drawing a little triangle here, we can see that the point goes up 2 and goes across 2. When we write gradient, we write gradient as rise over run, so as a fraction. So how much does it rise, and then how much does it go across? So in this case, our rise is 2 and our run is 2. 2 divided by 2 just gives us 1. So our gradient for A is just 1. Okay, next one I'm going to do, B is in green. We do exactly the same thing. Plot our points, draw our line, and do our triangle. We have negative 2, 1. So we go across to the left, negative 2, and then go up 1, and then we have 0. So we don't go left or right, and then we go straight up to 4. We get our line, so we get our ruler, page back, grab our ruler, join our lines together. Draw our points together, and we get this line. Okay, then we can draw our triangle. Our triangle now is 3, 2. Our rise is 3, our run is 2. So let's write it here. M, rise over run. So we get 3 on 2. So we can leave it as that, or we can make it 1.5. Or we can even write it as 1.5 as our gradient. And that's it for B. C I'm going to do in red. we are having our first point at -6, -1, that's over here. And we get -2, -5, which is here. Grab our ruler. And join our dots together. Okay, we can draw our triangle over here. Our rise is 4 lines. Rise. And we go across 4. Okay, but notice how we go from the top line, we actually move downwards. So we need to make sure this number is actually a -4. Okay? So our gradient, again, is rise over run. Run. We have a -4, so we go down 4. We don't rise, we actually descend. And then we go across 4. The -4 divided by 4 is going to give us -1. So what can we notice from this? So A is a positive gradient. Excuse me. B is also a positive gradient. And C is a negative gradient. Okay? You can see that because this line goes up in this direction, goes up in this direction, and then D goes down in this direction. Okay? All right, so that's one way of solving these. The other way you can solve these is just by looking at the points. And you can do that by taking your numbers from the y coordinates and then putting that over the x coordinates and finding the difference between each. So let's have a look. So we know that when we write our points, it's the x coordinate first and then the y coordinate. We're going to take the second point minus the first point. So in this case, we've got 4, 5. So we start off with our 5, and then we minus off our 3, and then we take the 4 from the second point, minus off the 2. So I'll say that again. This is what you need to do. You're going to take your 5, minus off your 3, then you're going to take 4, and then minus 2. Okay, make sure that these are done separately in your fraction. So 5 minus 3 gives me 2, and then 4 minus 2 gives me 2, which is the same as what we did here, except we didn't draw it. So again, that gives me 1. Okay. For B, same thing. Take your second point, take the y coordinate minus the y coordinate of the first point, so 4 minus 1. Then you look at your x coordinate, 0. Now we're going to minus -2. If I have double minuses, it just means plus. So 4 minus 1 at the top gives me 3. And then 0 minus -2 gives me 0 plus 2. We get 2, which is the same thing as what we got before, which is again 1.5. And then for C, same thing, take your y coordinate in your second point, -5, minus your y coordinate in your first point, which is -1, all on. Take your x coordinate in your second point, -2, minus the first coordinate, first point x coordinate, which is -6, and you do your calculations. -5 minus -1, so -5 plus 1 gives me -4, and then I've got -2 minus -6, which gives me -2 plus 6, which gives me 4. So that gives me -1. You can plug this whole thing into the calculator